What is happening, everybody? My name's Brightlife. This is my fancy shirt. I look like that douchebag at your cousin's wedding who talks a big game but will go home with no maidens. And today we changed our set and we're changing up our video series. We're going to be doing a video called Pre-Game, which I'll explain in a moment, all on the producers of the new upcoming game, Return to Moria. Let's jump into it. Well, hey friends, welcome to Pre-Game, a video series where we look at upcoming games, do a little bit of a deep dive on developer history, most recent updates, and then over a couple of episodes, develop what we call a confidence score on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how confident I am that this game is going to be a good game, from 1 being I don't even think this game exists, to 10 being pre-order now. And we are starting with Return to Moria. We're going to be doing a deep dive on free-range games, the producers of this game. It's going to be a great time. But hey, first, this video is sponsored. That's right, your boy got sponsored by himself. It's kind of like when your mom goes to your choir concert and she's the only one clapping. Anyway, this video is sponsored by my Patreon. We just opened this thing up, but it's a way to make video producing more sustainable for me. So if you like what you see, please feel free to go down there below. You get exclusive content. There are clubs that you can be a part of, strategy sessions. You can even get my phone number if you'd like to be in contact with me. But be sure to go down there below and see if that is right for you. If you love the video, please feel free to support. You'll get your name in future videos as well. But without further ado, let's jump back into Pre-Game. All right, well, today we are talking about Return to Moria, which is a survival crafting video game set in the 4th age of Middle-earth, where players take control of a company of dwarves tasked to reclaim the lost spoils from the dwarven homeland of Moria, known as Khazad-dûm or the Darodelph, in the depths below their very feet. Their quest will require fortitude, delving deep into the mines of Moria to recover its treasures. Set in a procedurally generated dwarven realm of Moria, no two adventures will be alike, and every expedition is traversable either solo or online with companions. Players can mine to craft greater gear and resources, but be aware that mining makes noise, and noise created in the quiet deep threatens to awaken the dangers below. Where there's clatter, there's combat. Excavate the mysteries of 3 legendary mountains, extract precious metals, scrape to survive, and battle unspeakable forces to learn the secret of the shadow that lurks within. Kind of sounds like my college dorm room experience. And Return to Moria is set to come out in 2023 and will be an Epic Games exclusive. So we're obviously getting a Valheim or V-Rising type game with twists, which is very exciting. I loved those games. I thought they were very good. And of course, Lord of the Rings is one of my passions. You can see my swords on the wall here. I very much love Lord of the Rings. So I'm very interested in this game being good. But the question is, will it actually be any good? And how confident should we be based on what we know about free-range games? So in order to really test whether this game is going to be good and kind of develop that early confidence score that I want to give you guys today, I wanted to take a deep dive into free-range games, the publisher for Return to Moria. I'd never heard of them before, and you probably hadn't either unless you were really into indie Jenga games on your iPhone, oddly enough. But I want to talk about the games that they have produced, some of the things they have co-produced, and what the reception has been for their first couple of projects, because that's a good way to tell whether or not this game will be good based on their history. So let's jump in first with their background. Now, Free Range Games was incorporated in June of 2015, and it has a really interesting mission statement. Free Range Games is a dedicated group of gaming professionals based in the San Francisco Bay Area. They're a small team comprised primarily of the lead developers from Shaba Game Studio, acquired by Activision in 2002. Together, they've helped launch numerous successful titles, including Spider-Man, Lord of the Rings, Tony Hawk, Shrek, and Dizzywood. We're currently developing a number of second-generation social games that bring together the fun of casual social gaming with high quality and professional game design that gaming enthusiasts demand. This company does have 92 employees, and they are currently hiring on LinkedIn, so they're looking to expand their horizons, and Return to Moria is the only one that's really on the horizon for them right now, which is exciting. It means that all of their energies are being put into this game, which does make me excited in the confidence score realm, and it does bump them up a few points that this is their one project that they're pushing toward. Now, what is cool is it sounds to me in their mission statement in their past that they have a lot of great game development experience, but really I think one of the most important things is to talk about the projects that they have developed. So let's jump into those. Now, first of all, I want to go through their external development history. And so how an external developer works based on my research is they don't necessarily develop the game from front end to back end. They take a chunk of the game or a portion of the game like combat or graphics, and they develop just that part of the game. So these things don't matter necessarily to to our purposes too much because with Return to Moria, they're going to be doing the entire game. This whole thing is going to be theirs. But I think it is interesting to see just how have these games been released. We're just going to go through these really quickly, but let's walk through their external development processes. Okay, so the first one, Goosebumps Night of Scares, it was a 2015 iOS game. It has a 4.3 star rating, which is pretty respectable on the iOS store. Then they did Virtual Sports. It was a PC game where you can play a variety of sports. It was sitting at a 3.8 out of 5 on Viveport. If you've ever heard of Viveport, I hadn't before this game, but it's got an okay rating. But again, we don't really know what parts they worked on with that. The third thing they worked on was Twitch Sings with Harmonix and Twitch, which of course are very large companies. It's cool to see them get that interaction in there. But of course, Twitch Sings was something where a Twitch streamer could go on, choose a song, and then karaoke to it and see if they could get really close to, you know, the lines, kind of rock band style. Now, unfortunately, it shut down due to DMCA issues. I guess even Twitch and YouTube aren't immune to DMCA issues in early 2021, but apparently it was a really great game and a lot of people liked it. Then there was Oddworld Soulstorm, a single-player platform that's currently sitting in a mixed review on Steam. And then there was the Callisto Protocol. It was a single-player survival horror game, and it is coming to PC and consoles, and they are externally developing that as we speak. Now, what we can see from these games, of course, is that they've worked with a number of very large creators like Harmonix, like Twitch, which is really cool. They've had some really big experience. I think there was even Jack Black in one of their games, which is pretty cool, I guess. But all of those have been okay. But what I really want to focus on is I want to focus on their games, the ones that they have produced. And I want to focus on 3 big games because I think this is going to help us to understand what quality of games they produce. So let's jump through these big 3. Now, the first full production game that I want to talk about today is Jenga AR. It's an iOS and Android mobile game where you can go in and use the AR experience of these phones to actually play Jenga on a table. I'll show you some footage of it right now of me playing it. It was a very interesting game. I decided to download it just to see what it was like, and I played a bit of Jenga AR in my backyard, and it was an interesting experience to say the least. Not necessarily because of any gameplay flaws. The game actually played pretty fine, and there were some really interesting little mechanics in it, but kind of because of the whole concept of the game. When you and I play Jenga, you know kind of how you play it, right? You poke the pieces and you try to find the one that's loose so that you can pull it out, and it's a lot about feel, and then you pull it out really slowly and your friends cheer and you're all drunk at the bar, whatever that is, right? Well, in this version of Jenga, you're using a phone, and so you just grab a random piece and then you begin to physically walk away with your phone away from the Jenga pile. It's a little bit awkward because you don't really know if the piece is loose before you start to walk away because there's like no wiggling motion. There's nothing to really tell about it. But I guess conceptually it's just kind of a strange game. It's not something to really judge a PC game by, but they kind of chose to do it, which is weird. It kind of made me go a little bit like, do you guys know like who would want this kind of a thing a little bit? But maybe some people love it. It's currently sitting at an okay review on the iOS store, and I guess it's there. So I guess for Jenga AR, when I'm thinking about the future of Return to Moria, it's just a very conceptually interesting game. It kind of made me ask the question within about 5 minutes, like, who would play this? Like, why is this a game? It would kind of be like playing Scrabble without the letters. Like, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but hey, to each their own. It was just one of those, like, as I thought about the future of Return to Moria, I did think, are they going to maybe miss and not think about what the customer wants because it's just conceptually kind of weird? I don't know if that's going to be an issue because they, of course, have Valheim and V Rising to look at as huge success stories in the genre, but hey, it is something just to note. All right, now the second one is MVP Football, the Patrick Mahomes Experience, which is a VR game played on the Oculus Store where you could play as superstar quarterback Patrick Mahomes and feel like a true MVP as you play high school, college, and pro football games. You get to call the plays, throw supercharged passes, and stiff arm oncoming defenders in slow motion, this high adrenaline VR game. It was released on Oculus Quest, and the vibe of the game, it's fun, apparently, according to a lot of the reviews, but it has a lot of bugs, like a lot of bugs. It's currently sitting at a 3 out of 5 on the Oculus Store. When you look at the bigger games that are out there that most people know, like Beat Saber, those are sitting at like 4.8, 4.9 out of 5. So obviously it's not necessarily a weighted store. It's very much the 3 out of 5 means it's just an average game because it's kind of a fun idea, but it's not really executed well. I think this is an interesting one again for us to look at when we think about Return to Moria, because where it could be a really fun concept and a fun idea, it's very plagued by bugs on the negative side of things. That's not necessarily a good thing thinking about the future of the game, because obviously conceptually Return to Moria is a great idea, right? You get to go as a party of dwarves and you get to work in this game genre that is really, really hot right now. But if it's really buggy and it's really clunky, it will be not the best experience. And so that's on the negative side. Now, on the positive spin on that one, of course, we're talking about a VR game. And VR is not necessarily a widely blockbusterable thing. A lot of people like VR. It's a fun little gimmick, but it hasn't really had that big breakout game that's made it its own platform. You think about things like Super Mario 64 and GoldenEye on the Nintendo. You think about things like Halo 1 on the Xbox, because those are the kind of games that brought that console into mainstream. Oculus doesn't have that yet, and so I guess it doesn't really make a lot of sense that it would be all perfect all the time. So I could see that, maybe comparing the two wouldn't be the best. Well, there is one game that they have produced that is a PC game that is also on the iPad. It's on the iOS store as well, and it is called Spelldrifter. And I spent quite a bit of time with Spelldrifter, and I really want to talk about this one because I think this one gives us a good clue of what's going to come. Now, Spelldrifter is a hybrid tactical role-playing game and deck-building game that features the best parts of both. It combines the puzzle-like positional tactics of a turn-based RPG battle with the deep customizability and replayability of a collectible card game. The result is a hybrid wherein players must juggle the resources at their disposal using both time and space. Now, there's been a lot of good acclaim for Spelldrifter actually, because Apple Arcade actually took them on as one of their titles, to where if you subscribe to Apple Arcade, you get this game for free essentially. And it's had some good acclaim. IGN called it one of the best Apple Arcade games. Game Rant called it one of the 10 Apple Arcade games that make the subscription worth it. It is currently sitting at a 4.1 out of 5 stars on Apple. It has the most reviews there, although it is also on Steam as well. And for Spelldrifter, I've got to admit, as you kind of look at the gameplay, I've never really been into deck type games like Hearthstone and Gwent. It's just never really been my cup of tea. But I wanted to give it a quick review. So I downloaded the game, I try to open it, and immediately I'm hit by a crashed app. That's not really a good sign, but at the same time, this actually does tend to happen a lot when you play new iOS games. It's just something that goes down a lot. You just have to kind of swipe open the game to reopen it, and then you reopen it and you're in. And luckily, that's what happened here as well. So after a quick relaunch, we're all getting back into the game. Now, the game started to walk me immediately through a tutorial, and I was pleasantly surprised by two things. One, the graphics were smooth and the animations were fluid. They're a lot better than most mobile games when you play this kind of a genre outside of the big blockbuster games like Hearthstone. And second was the creativity. For example, there was a creative thing where every time you swung the sword, there was this stylistic moment where they would play this epic guitar riff. And it made me feel like... Now, all jokes aside, as I played this and I got this rock and roll feel and it was really fun, it was interesting to see the level of artistry that was in this game. And I think that's something that really stood out to me as a player, that there was this artistic, we want it to be rock and roll, we want it to have a brand, we want this to be fun. And I thought that was a really cool thing, and it showed me that they're not just about creating something that looks just like every other game in the genre. They wanted to do something that made them stand out. Even if it was just a silly guitar chord every time the sword struck, that was a really cool idea, and I applaud them for that. What that kind of artistry shows me about free-range games is that this company has a real desire to make good games. They have desire to be creative, maybe push the boundaries a little bit. Now, my interest in this is, as we develop the confidence score over the next couple months, I'm interested to see, do they continue to push the boundary in their genre, or do they kind of just stick with what they know? Are they a company that is able to take some risks and really have some fun and create something different and new, or are they just going to create something that's buggy and kind of a mess? And to me, it seems like, the Patrick Mahomes game and Spelldrifter kind of exist on the two opposite ends of the same plane, which is, it seems like Free Range Games is a company that's willing to take some risks. They're willing to actually go for it a little bit. And sometimes it's buggy, and sometimes it's actually pretty fun and decently well received. And what is going to be interesting to see, as time will tell, is Return to Moria going to be a little bit buggy, have a little bit of problems, or is it going to be a risk-taking, innovative game in this genre space? And I choose to think that it's probably going to be that one on the other side. So what's the pregame verdict and what is our score? In learning about free-range games, I very much saw them as the classic startup business. They started by learning their skills, then came together with some friends to form a company. Then they scrapped together to get whatever work that they could with an external developer credits on some larger IPs. After that, they started to produce their own games, but they haven't really had that big breakout hit yet. They've just been refining their craft, taking some risk, trying out different genres. They've had a little bit of success and have produced some decent games, but now they're ready for their big breakout genre in the game, which is why they didn't go for just some other generic survival crafting game. They went for Lord of the Rings. That is a name that has real weight to it. And I think it's a really bold move, and it makes me think this company's ready to take some risks to try to take it big, which is a good sign for us as gamers. As for their previous projects, it can be a little hard to tell, but based on their history, it seems like they can produce games with decent reviews and success, but the VR football game shows that they can also produce some buggier games as well, if not done the right way. As they're going for Lord of the Rings, I actually think that they're wise to partner with a publisher with lots of experience in the PC gaming world like they are. I'm very nervous that this game is going to be an Epic Store exclusive, because I think even if the game is phenomenal, I think the game is going to get hit hard with the Epic Store hatred that exists all around the gaming community. I mean, just look at a couple of my comments. This is not a loved gaming platform. And for a lot of people, when someone says Epic Game Store, it's an instant death thing. I think that overall, they did this because of the money and the experience that Epic can bring to them, but I still think it's gonna hurt the game overall in the end, because there are just gonna be a lot of people that won't play it, even if it is really, really good. Now, with all that being said, I was tempted at the start to give this a 5 out of 10 on my confidence score meter, which means I'm not really sure if it's gonna be good or bad. I'm kind of on the fence between the two of them. However, with their big hiring moves that are happening right now all over the internet, all over their Twitter, LinkedIn, and website, it seems like they're really trying to go for broke on this game. It's the only game that they're producing right now, outside of doing some external development for the Callisto protocol to try to probably drum up some cash for this game. It seems like they're putting all of their apples in this basket, which makes me excited. So my official Brightlife confidence score on this game as of right now is a 6 out of 10, which is a 6 out of 10, or meaning that I'm cautiously optimistic that this game is going to be really, really good. I think this developer has a history of producing some interesting games, some risk-taking different games, and if this game can do that, I'm actually very, very excited for it. So I'm cautiously optimistic that this will be a really solid Lord of the Rings game. With the creativity that I've seen, I'm excited to see if that score can go up as the release date gets nearer for more information and beta testing. As always, friends, be sure to keep it right here, because we are going to be continuing our coverage of the Return to Moria. We're going to be updating our pregame score. So if you want more stuff like this, please feel free to subscribe. It's always great to have you on board the crew. Be sure to give it a like, share it with a friend if you thought it was really good, and please be sure to visit our Patreon if you'd like to support the channel and encourage more video creation going into the future. But friends, as always, I want you to know two things as we end, and it's the most important part of every one of my videos. You are more loved than you know, and you are so much more valuable than you realize. I hope that you have an absolutely incredible day, and I will see you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to let you know a couple ways to connect with me. First of all, we got an awesome Discord in the description. We've got a Patreon if you'd like to give to the channel and help support more video creation. And I am live on Twitch quite often over at twitch.tv/BrightLifeCommunity. Would love to see you there. Always love interacting on those live video streams. But I hope you have an incredible day, my loved and valued friend. Have an awesome one.